Welcome to our container security weekly group discussion. Um, so I just wanted to start off, since we're all in the middle of the alert dashboard work, just to take a moment to get a little bit of an update on that and see how's that work coming. I know our confidence level getting it into this milestone was pretty low last week, and just wanted to see how we've come over the last week.
I can start from the front end perspective. First of all, the cutoff date for things to get merged is the 15th, which is, I believe, Tuesday. And since as I mentioned in the document, it takes about a week to get things merged. So anything that probably wasn't up yesterday, end of day, will probably not get in. That being said, my confidence level is a lot lower than last week now, because I've had some bad luck with the review process. Like the MR to just show the alerts took like 4 days to get some eyes on it, and that was a shame. And hopefully it goes in tonight, but that's held up the reviews for everything else because they all depend on that. But I've been moving ahead, and I have about 3 MRs that rely on that one. They just haven't been moved into review because of how long that one's taken.
Got it. Yeah, thanks for that update. One thing that I've been trying to understand too on the front end is, where did we land? I know we've kind of gone all over the place as far as what our experience is going to be like for this first release, but I'm not 100% sure on everything that made it versus did not make it into that.
Yeah, great question. The spike that I did basically showed that the Kanban style was possible, but not in the time frame we were hoping for, which was this milestone. It was a lot of code, a lot of moving pieces. I got 80% up in 2 days, but it would have taken a long time to review everything. And that was just like a prototype. So I decided to go with the table style because it was what I thought our best chance of getting it into this milestone. Basically with the MRs, they're up. Like we would have shown the alerts, we would have been able to dismiss them, and then I am getting up today an MR that would have hid the dismissal, which is most of the requirements. 2 things that wouldn't have gone in is the filtering by environment or by policy name. I think that's the only requirements I saw that I wasn't able to get up in a reasonable time in an MR, but I think also there's some back-end issues with that currently.
Got it. Okay, so you're not showing the details pane yet, though, just to be
No.
clear. Okay.
Sorry, that is another thing that slipped.
Great. Okay, no, thanks for clarifying that. It's helpful to understand where we're at so far, so I appreciate it. Yeah, that's unfortunate about the MRs. I think that's something that's just plagued our team the whole year, is getting things through maintainer review. It's just an unfortunate reality of where we're at. We don't have a maintainer on our team, and so we rely on the other teams to give us some of their time to get our MRs merged in. And it's just a reoccurring thing that we face pretty much every single iteration as part of this team, is getting those MRs merged in. So pros and cons to working with this group. Unfortunately, right now, that's probably one of the cons, but it is what it is. It's nothing new for me. I feel like I've been hearing, MRs are stuck in maintainer reviews since I started here. So we just make the best of it, and we get it in the next milestone if it misses this one.
Yeah, I just would like to reiterate that on that a little bit. Don't feel bad, Alexander. that's how we have been going through in this team so far. So it's just breaking through each day, and each will get merged this this milestone or the next. Don't worry about that.
Thanks, team.
All right. Alexander, did you have more to add? I know there's a lot of comments here in the notes.
Nope. I basically just reiterated everything I wrote down. Now that I think about it, I don't know why I did that, but it's fine.
Okay. Backend, how are we doing? Zamir and John, how are we doing on the back end?
Do you want to go first, John?
Yes. So I have 2 MRs that are like almost going through their second week. So one MR has now 8 participants, and I'm gonna plan to hit 100 comments on that. So there are 100 different comments on the MR. I'm trying to push through. I also invite you, Sam. There is one other team's PM is asking some questions, some clarifications, further clarifications, but is in a maintainer review for some time. I'm doing my best every day. I'm waking up. I'm answering all these questions. I'm pushing through, but it's quite crowded for a simple MR, I must say. So it reduces my confidence to merge this thing in Milestone. Another MR is to filter things and separate them between 2 different views. That is also in maintainer review. And so I updated yesterday. Today is in the maintainer review. So 2 of my MRs is in maintainer review, and I try to keep them on maintenance as much as possible.
Okay. I'm wondering, at least for that first one that has a lot of comments, do we need to just schedule a synchronous meeting for that one? I wonder if that might be more efficient to just get everyone together on a Zoom call and we can talk through the concerns that they have. And I don't know. I'm asking, what can I do to help?
Yeah, if you could just talk with other teams PM. Now she involved in MR. That's in so it will confuse maintainer now. Maintainer, he will wake up and he don't want to merge, and he sees this kind of stuff, And I thought we clarified what we are doing, but so first there is one more person came from others team and throw some questions, but I'm thinking like we clarified those in the issue description and stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, like people don't seem to be reading the issue and throwing out how's this gonna work with others, how's this gonna work with alert integration. So sorry, I just did a little bit of segue to my problems, but if you could just sync with other teams, alerts team PM, and say what we are doing, would be great.
Absolutely. I'll talk with Sarah today.
And then we just dismiss this. I'm sorry, solve this, resolve the thread so that maintainer won't be confused.
Okay, who is the maintainer for that one?
So the maintainer for this, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Tong Kwa.
Yep, I know him.
Yeah, so he is in, he is the best candidate to actually the merge because he's also in the configure team, and he's in New Zealand, so he will wake up in our evening time, in a few hours. So
yeah, I will. I'll reach out to him. I've talked with him before, so we already have a good relationship. I'll talk with him.
No, I think he's fine. But people coming from others team, I think comments questions. If you were a maintainer, you would also want those things to be resolved or something. And yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. All right.
John, I sort of asked this in the doc, but your MR to separate the boards view, does that by was it by domain, right?
Yes. We added a new field to alerts table called domain, and by default the domain value is operations. So it's like for operations, you know. So
excellent.
And so that MR, the second MR, is making the operations table view, like, you know, you don't need to send anything from front end. It will by default for CE, by default will use alerts for domain operations.
Excellent. Yeah, that default value is what I wanted to know about. Thank you.
Yes. And I also added in that MR, other MR that has a lot of comments, is only for ultimate. Like those alerts will be created only for ultimate. So, you know, as well.
Got it. Thank you.
From my side, I can verbalize that. One of the members of the configure team, it's I said last week that he started refactoring CAS and Agent K to have like a plugin architecture. And one thing that was missing was to have a possibility for us to call our endpoints. So then he pinged me in one of the MRs. I need to check that. I had the day off yesterday. So then I need to catch up on that. So hopefully we're going to have everything that we need for our things in that plugin. And then we just need to extend that. From the Kubernetes API perspective, I was able to get more information from the Kubernetes endpoints. There is one flag that's kind of hidden on the ceiling configuration that you need to enable in order to be able to see policy status information when you query for the endpoint. And then the next step now for me is I'm linking already the log with the endpoint status, but I still need to link with the policy. And then that would be the first version. Second version would be to have a smart way to buffer those informations based on the watchers for Kubernetes API. And yeah, but I don't have any MR yet. Hopefully I have some MRs by the end of this week.
Great. If there is a flag like that that's kind of hidden, it would be nice if we could just set that flag by default as part of our Helm chart rather than having the user add yet another thing to their YAML file. It just makes it, you know, one step easier for them if it's pre-configured the way it needs to be. Yeah,
to make things easier, the best way to move forward, I think, is to bump the version from 1.8 to 1.9. And then I'm going to do that. There's an issue for that already. And then I'm going to do exactly as you said. I'm going to enable the flag by default. And we need to add in the documents, if people don't want this feature, they can disable it to improve the performance on their side.
Yeah, that sounds like a great approach. So awesome. Well, thanks for all the updates there. And Kyle, it looks like you've got some updates as well.
Yeah, mine are just about some of the kind of follow-up iterations we can make to the alerts dashboard. So our prototype is quite a few steps ahead of the initial MVC, but like one is on the table view is showing the details of the related alert. So whether you're on the Kanban view or on the table view, just showing the actual details of what the alert policy was. In the past, we looked at this a little bit, but one thing that was kind of unsure of, and like the details that we saw there were really for a placeholder for usability testing, and they kind of have the basics. But I opened up this like a discovery issue just to answer a few questions of, for an MVC, what information will we have available to show for those alerts? And then we can kind of figure out what the MVC is for, how to show it. Some other basic kind of questions too is like one of the here, I'll just quickly show, like, one of the UX things is like, if someone is looking at this and they want to share this, the drawers don't create like a unique identifier that you could link to another user. So maybe we could figure out a way of doing that. But also on the UX side, I still need to show an expanded view of that. So, but that's a few steps down the road. Yeah, one suggestion would maybe be like, could we do this discovery like with Alexander and Jean? Like if we do like, I don't know, in the past I've just done like a discovery where we have front end and back end and we just kind of answer some of those questions and in a milestone. I know we're kind of at the end of this milestone, but maybe for next milestone. So I could put this at 13.8 because I don't think the details drawer would be going in until 13.9 anyway, right? So.
Or we'd be working on it next milestone, yeah, in 13.8.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Kyle, have you looked at the operations alert page? Oh, obviously you have. That's a dumb question, but no, there are no dumb questions. Because they have a details page that they can navigate to separately that does create a unique URL. Is that something you would be interested in?
Yeah, I think that'll, if there wasn't a unique URL for the drawer that's available, then there'll need to be one for, like, even in the drawer, if we put like a copy and paste icon or something, so you could just quickly like share it with someone, it'll take them to the expanded page, you know? But I think the key question right now is just exactly what details can we show? What's the information that we can show? That's the one that I'm not sure.
I can have right now I'm at a point that I can have the information from the logs. So then maybe I could just grab like a couple of the log entry and other information that we would map and just add in the issue. So then you have some idea on what we can get from the back end. But with that said, John is working on the private API, and I'm not sure exactly the mapping that's going to happen there. So yeah, it might be required for all of us to kind of get together there and see what we're going to be able to filter out for the UI.
Okay. Yeah, I know way back when we first started this, and then it dropped off for a little bit with alerts, but there's a small discussion that maybe that there's just like, we just take any information that's there and put it into the details page container. And then eventually we kind of comb through that and format it a little bit better after follow-up iterations. But I think what would be helpful is just to see like the examples you're talking about, so we can kind of see how that might be put into the drawer, for example, or the unique page. So I'll just ping you on that issue, and yeah, an example would be great.
Yeah, I had a similar idea. I like if the drawer would or when the drawer happens, I was just going to like dump everything in there and be like, here's more information, and then get feedback on it later.
Yeah, from my side, I look too much into the alerts API from the monitoring team. So then basically everything is dumped into the tail. So that's why initially I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I'm assuming at the end of the day, we'll have some sort of generic table that shows key value pairs, because we're going to want to have alerts coming from things other than Cilium, and that data is not always going to be consistent, you know, across all of the things that are feeding alerts. So we just need to make sure to keep it generic enough that we can support, you know, that we're not hard coding what those keys have to be, that we're flexible enough to support any set of key value pairs.
Yeah, Threat Insights is doing something similar with their scanners. So maybe we can take a page from their book and use some generic components maybe we could share with them.
Yeah, for sure. And even if you look at the monitor team's alert page, like their dedicated page for an alert, they have a table in there that just has a big listing of key value pairs too. So obviously they've got that same problem, and in a way that they're solving for it there too. All right, so for the sake of time, we probably want to keep moving along. Alexander, anything new to demo? I took a look there. It looks pretty blank, other than I do see you added the alerts tab. So good job adding that.
Yeah, I'm working on it. But like I said, at least hopefully the alerts will show by tomorrow. So that'll be exciting. I'll probably ping everybody with emojis and stuff like that to celebrate.
Awesome. And then with the time we've got left, I just wanted to sync up on our rough notional plans for the next couple milestones. So it's becoming pretty apparent we're not going to actually ship the alert dashboard this milestone. I'm hoping that it doesn't take all of 13.8 to ship it. I'm hoping that we can wrap it up 13.7, and we've got some MRs that are still going through maintainer review, but I'm hoping we can ship that fairly early in the next iteration and still have some time to go do other things. So as far as what those other things would be, I think at this point, we're probably going to split the front end and back end as much as we can. And this is somewhat of an open question as well to you, Alexander, but I don't know how much you can continue to go forward on the front end without additional back end work, right? Assume we get through this MVC, we ship, that initial iteration, but now to add in things like alert details, some of this stuff the monitor team already has in their UI, but like the ability to create an incident from an alert, the ability to assign a user to an alert, filtering by status, environment policy, the Kanban view. So that's kind of my short list of things that I would like to still see happen on the front end. Do you need additional backend support, or is that all like front end only work that you could just run with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe a lot of that is front end only work. Certainly, like creating the Kanban view is all front end. Like once the actions exist for the table view, it's just mapping them over to the Kanban view. So that could definitely happen. I haven't dug into, creating an incident, assigning a user. There's one other thing you mentioned. I haven't looked into that, but like you said, monitor team has it. And if we're using their same backend, I would assume that we are good to go there. I just need to verify that. There's a couple things that I don't know about from the back end, which is filtering alerts by environment and by policy name. Zamir, you mentioned that you're mapping to policy, or that MR is going to go up maybe this week. Is that correct? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. But my MR is going to be just a call to the internal API. So then after it gets to the internal API, that's going to be John's code that's going to drop this into the alert. That's why I'm not sure exactly which fields are going to be part of a big blob of details and which fields are going to be parsed by themselves.
Okay, so you're assuming then that the policy name is going to be part of that blob and maybe the environment, but you can't be sure as of right now.
Yes, I would have to check the MR that the MRs are in progress. Maybe John, would you be able to say which fields are we going to have split out of the blob?
Yes. So I use the same piece of code from alerts team to create a generic alert. So this you enable the alerts integration and you hit the endpoint with a payload, and you create alerts. So all those things you can see it as an example. Was this clear?
Yeah, so basically whatever the current alerts, monitors alerts information, whatever they have will have.
Yes.
Okay.
Third-party integration alert Yes, whatever they have, we are using same model.
Okay, so they have no concept of policy over on the operations team. So we will not have the policy name then, is that correct?
Would you mind checking I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with the front end. Do they do I'm assuming, do they get like a JSON blob and they parse things in the view code before displaying it? Or do they already get like the information as just different attributes in the object? Maybe that's the tricky.
Got it.
So
okay,
then if you have the network information as attributes of this JSON blob, it would require parsing.
Okay, got it. All right, so it sounds like the verdict is also out on environment and policy name right now. There needs to be some verification, but that would be potential backend work. But basically, a lot of stuff could go forward with the front end. I will have plenty to do in 13.8.
Awesome. So I will create a follow-on epic to capture basically the delta of where we want to be versus where we actually got with our initial MVC. And Kyle's got some design issues that I'll associate up with that, and I'll write up the requirements there just so that we can finally start to actually separate out, like, here's the MVC in our first release, and then, you know, here's some of that follow-on work. And then lastly, on the backend team, so I'm hoping that any ongoing support there for the alert dashboard after this is minimal. And after that, I want to have the backend team start working on the DAST scan schedule policies. I know, Alexander, you did a really good job breaking that out and refining it on the front end, but I think there's more complexity on the back end. So it'll be good to give the backend team a head start on that one so they can hammer out some of those unknowns before we have everyone working together. So that's the plan anyway, is to have the backend team work on the DAST scan schedule policies while the front end continues to move forward with the alert dashboard. Any concerns with that? Are we okay? Zamir?
For me, my concern is that we are going to have a big change on Agent K and Cass, and we need to synchronize with them when they are going to release these new versions. So then it's not, we just don't rely on the pipeline for having the Rails code delivered. So then that's what concerns me on assuming that we are going to have everything tested by the first part of the next milestone. I think we still have different pieces everywhere. That's very hard for me to see that for sure we are going to have something on the beginning of the milestone, and we are going to have maybe like half or more of the milestone to work on something completely different. That's my only concern there.
Got it. Okay, well, I mean, I guess regardless of the timing, I would just say as you start to finish up with the alert dashboard, if you have extra time, that would be the next priority, is those DAST scheduled scans. So even if you're working both in parallel for a little while, you know, that would be the next thing to pick up. John, we're out of time. I think we talked about your question there earlier. Any other last words before we close out the meeting?
No.
All right. Thanks everyone for your time today. I appreciate it.
Yep. Bye, friends.